now, as you move into more unbundling, or I have moved into more unbundling, more opportunities, and like the marketplace, instead of being so local, is now global. And that is also in benefits. Like if you go to Benefits Pro and you go into the expo
Sure.
of all the vendors,
Right.
it's
The solution pavilion, all the solution providers, vendors, whoever. Yeah.
yeah, walking through like, oh, you have this solution. Oh, we can do what? We're doing
Right.
this. There's no way anybody can know everything.
Right.
But also there's a lot of solutions out there, and sometimes they don't work quite as efficiently as we'd hoped.
Hmm.
So it's critical to have a group of people like, have you tested this, or what's working for you with these TPAs? So, maybe people aren't making the same mistakes. I think knowing those personal experiences, especially if we are intent on and building a more equitable healthcare system right now for our communities. Like nobody can do this on their own.
Welcome to the Rockstars Rocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of Rockstars Rocking, where you know it, each and every week I say the same thing. We only have the best of the best, the finest, most exceptional, most charismatic, the top storytellers you can ever imagine. And this week is no different. Everybody, welcome to the show. My good friend, Lindsay Clarke Youngwerth, managing partner of the Chandra Group out of the Boise, Idaho area. What's up, Lindsay?
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me on your show.
Oh man, I'm super pumped to have you. I'm so excited for everybody to listen in. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, I'm waving my hand. If you're listening in the car, watch out. There's a guy about to turn left. Okay, good. You're good. Perfect. All right. Well, listen, Lindsay, I am super pumped. I want to start by, and we're going to talk about it, but I want to start by congratulating you. For those that haven't heard the great news yet, Lindsay has just been named and honored as one of the top 5 Advisor of the Year finalists for one of my favorite industry periodicals and publications, if not my favorite, no offense to anybody else, by Benefits Pro magazine. Paul Wilson and the crew over at Benefits Pro, each and every year they do a top 5. Used to be called Broker of the Year. They just changed it to Advisor of the Year. Lindsay, that is quite the honor. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's incredibly humbling and a little intimidating.
Oh, no need to be intimidating. I'm going to ask you questions because I want to know how, out of the multiple tens and tens and tens, and I mentioned tens of thousands of advisors and brokers and consultants that are in our industry, how they selected you as a top 5. Everybody listening, tune in because we're about to find out. Lindsay, I want to start with you. You have something on your website, in your bio, you have it on your LinkedIn, and it means a lot to me because basically you're saying to the world, nobody really grows up and dreams about selling insurance and being in the employee benefits world. And I'm no different. I started by accident, like most people. And I want to know your story. Like when you were a little girl growing up, what did you want to do? And then really, if you have the ability to share with me how you got into the benefits world of all things.
Well, honestly, it's been so long. I probably for a while wanted to be an actress and also a dancer. Would have been atrocious at both.
I doubt that.
But mostly just wanted to be Julie on the Love Boat. So, which is dating myself. For any younger people, they can Google Love Boat if you're younger than 30. And then I got started. I honestly really had a hard time finding my place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have ADHD, and it was really difficult for me to get through college. I didn't succeed past that first year and kind of had resigned myself to just being a waitress for the rest of my life. And I met a guy on an airplane who sat next to me and probably waited almost the entire flight till I put my book down, to ask me what I saw for my future and what I was doing. And asked me how much I was making. And at that time I think my son was 3 years old and I was still working. I made about $35,000 a year. This was 2005, which seemed pretty good for Boise, Idaho. And it's like, okay, cool. He said, what if I told you could make $60,000 a year? And do you think that you have more potential than what you're doing? And I said, well, I would love to make $60,000 a year. And yeah, I think I can do more. And where do I sign? Literally, that was how it happened.
What, from an airplane for the stranger?
This stranger, I had no clue. Like, I'm a waitress.
That's a first. We're 100 episodes in. I've never heard a story like that. That's awesome. I love it.
Like, I had no clue this is how they recruit for life insurance salespeople. I didn't know. Like, I had no idea. I was like, this guy just sees I'm from Idaho, guys. I'm super gullible. And then also just shamed every Idahoan and put out this narrative that we're all gullible, but we're pretty nice for no reason. So anyway.
So, okay. So you started in the life insurance side, like individual life insurance. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Got it. How long did that last?
It lasted for about 2 years.
Okay.
I started working. I did everything they told me to do. I had no idea anything about insurance, life insurance, disability, like nothing. They gave me a book and said, here, study, pass your tests.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I did that. And I even had to pay for my own testing, which was weird, but did all of that. And, they said, okay, call all of your friends and neighbors and sell them life insurance. And I had no idea, unbeknownst to me, like this is so common. I had so many friends that would be, Lindsay, I don't want to buy life insurance from you. Or they would say, they weren't friends. They'd say, I'm pretty sure she's not going to make it. And that was just all I needed. Like, you won't be able to do this. I'm like, I will prove you wrong, come hell or high water. And so I really gave it the old college try. But with life insurance, anybody who started out that way, and for anybody who's made a living that way, look, dude, you're probably more qualified for this recognition than me because you hustle. But you start at zero every single month and you get those clawbacks.
Sure.
And so come around about 2007, and I just started prospecting businesses for life insurance, because they're used to people walking in to sell them things. So I just walk into companies every day. Nobody wanted to talk to me about life insurance. They all wanted to talk about benefits. And I'd walked into this big construction firm and they said, cool, the life insurance is great, but we really have this problem with our health insurance benefits. Can you help us with that? And no, absolutely not. Could not have helped them. I said, yes. And I was like, cool, I got this opportunity. Now what? At the time we had a local, like a community health insurance company called Primary Health. And I reached out there, and the salesperson, Jerry Brookshire, who's passed now, unfortunately, but he really took me under my wing. And I remember him saying, I don't understand why you're doing this life insurance thing. You could really do benefits. Do you know how you get paid? And he told me how I could get paid. And so you understand, there was a moment in my history where of the life insurance sales, I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store and I had $40 in my checking account. It was winter. My son is in the back seat. I'm a single mom. And I'm trying to decide if I should put gas in my car, which I knew I was going to need to do prospecting that week, or buy groceries. And when Jerry said, oh, you can get $25 per employee per month, and they pay that to you for as long as the employer has the policy.
Sure.
It's like, I can do that.
Sold.
I can do this.
So, all right. So I want to unpack this for a second, right? Because one of the biggest fears, this is nothing you don't know, this is nothing that anybody listening doesn't know, but one of the biggest fears, if not, in my opinion, I've been in the benefits world 25 years, and it was a fear of mine back in the day too, is cold calling, walking into businesses, picking up the phone, introducing yourself to total strangers. You're fearless, man. You don't strike me as shy. Now you might say, hold on, let me explain. But to be in sales, you have to have the fortitude to just throw caution to the wind and really just make it happen. And that's unfortunately why most people fail. Not insurance or benefits, forget that for a moment, but in sales in general, in prospecting in general. You could be selling water coolers, you could be selling copiers. It doesn't matter. The average person is going to fail, and it's because of that fear of rejection. We're going to get into benefits, don't worry, but there are listeners on here. I guarantee somebody could be in that position recently or right now, where they too are sitting in the parking lot at a grocery store in that same bind. So talk about how you muster up the courage to continue back in the day and even to this day when it comes to going out there and finding new groups and prospects and businesses and employers that you can help.
So back then, what drove me was this pure desire to not fail.
I love it.
I didn't want to let my kid down. And I thought I could do this. Like, it can't be very hard. And that really drove me. And to be honest, Eric, like to this day, I still cold call. I actually, if anybody is that person and you are on this call, my email is not a secret. Friend me up on LinkedIn. You ask me any questions. I will practice cold call scripts with you. I do this with people in my PAR group all of the time. We will talk about things and I think if you practice, you get more confident. That's just my like an advertisement there, and it's no cost. Like, I will help you. And please be sincere if like you sincerely want help. But anyway, beyond that, I think for me, it was, I didn't want to fail. I wanted to be more for myself. I wanted to prove I could do it to myself. I wanted to be more valuable. And so, and I didn't want to default on my mortgage. And I wanted my son to play Little League. And I wanted to pay for his college. And I think that just channeled a lot of energy. But I also knew I had gaps. And at the time I was working with Jerry still, primary health, but Jerry said, Lindsay, I can't help you with all of this. Like, I work for primary health. You need a mentor. And he told me there is a local agent here that owned their own independent agency. And he said, I really, really admire this person. I bet if you called them, they would help you. This is what you say. Give them your name. Tell them I told you to call. Tell them you just started. Tell them that you're looking for mentorship and you would really like some sort of collaboration. I called this person. And I kid you not, I called them a couple of times before they finally called me back. I kid you not. They call me back and they say, who is this? I said, my name. And they said, who told you to call? I said, Jerry. And they said, what did you need? And I told them, and they said, absolutely not. Don't ever call me again. Click.
What?
Seriously.
And it was a referral. It was an introduction.
It was for mentorship. Like, right. I could have been working in their agency. I could have made them money. I could have and I had run into that more than once. And I felt at that time that, I guess this is a business where you have to prove yourself before anybody will help you.
So, all right. So you got hung up on Click.
Like,
well,
not going to help you.
Is that when, and you, trust me, I have too. We've all been hung up on, and if you're in any type of sales or prospecting or relationship building, it happens more than folks might prefer. But all right, so you got hung up on, but you kept going. Like, you didn't let that stop you, right? No. Talk to me about and we're gonna kind of it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody's ever watched anything on video. Sometimes a little insert will come on. I'm not that fancy, but it's going to say 5 years later. So here we are. You've been in the business, right? You're moving forward. You're going well. And obviously you're passionate about your employer groups. You're passionate about benefits. I know that you're starting more and more and more, and you have been swimming upstream to some mid and larger size groups. But I also know you have a sincere passion for direct contracting. So I want to get into some nitty gritty here because I truly believe that's gotta be, and I don't know yet, but that's gotta be one of the big reasons why you're a top 5 finalist for Advisor of the Year, because that is of still to this day, recording here in 2024, that's a very unique thing that a lot of innovative brokers still haven't quite gotten the hang of yet. So can you talk about that and kind of expound upon what that's been able to do for your career and your clients?
Um, it's like, I guess it'd be fast forward 10 years later.
There you go.
um, yeah, 300 takeout coffees later. No, just quoting Taylor Swift. Anyway, I'm a Swiftie, but
My daughter's gonna love this episode. She's a big Swiftie. We just watched the Disney Eras tour this past weekend as we're recording, but she saw it live, so I didn't get that privilege.
no, it's super. That's awesome. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. A lot of people know who Doug Hetherington is. He's been really focused on building direct contracts with local hospitals, and he's from my hometown. And we had always worked in parallel. And at some point, during that we worked at the same agency for a minute. And honestly, that was 2010, 11. And I'll be honest, he would be on the phone learning about ELAP and talking about the BS that is happening in our healthcare system. He truly was a pioneer. And I was always listening to him, very curious about what he was doing. And then, I was no longer at the Levitt Group, and I would still reach out to him and see, like, what are you doing? Tell me about how you're helping people. And, at first he was doing it. It was legit. Like, people were going to the Caymans, whatever.
Right.
But when he was able to get the direct contracts with the St. Luke's health system, which is our largest health system here in the Treasure Valley, that opened up a whole other can of worms, like a whole space of possibilities that didn't exist before. And he reached out to me, Lindsay, I want you to be my very first certified benefits counselor in Boise. So I was super excited about that opportunity, but I had to learn a lot in that time. And so about self-funding, and then, just gain this confidence that I could work in these larger organizations. And then over the last year, it's really just been pedal to the metal direct contracts. But before that, direct primary care. So 10 years ago, easily 10 years ago, I started an engagement with direct primary care personally, because I was having a health issue that I could not get resolved with a provider in my valley at all. I tried. I went to a gastro, and they, in 10 minutes, said, we'll probably just need to take out your gallbladder. And I thought, but we haven't done anything yet. Nobody's cutting into anything. Anyway, it was a parasite. So it was just an antibiotic. Thanks to direct primary care, I avoided a surgery. And so my religion, I guess, in health insurance before I started working with Doug in H2B was, how do we get direct primary care into every consumer's home in this town, in this valley? And I really made that my mission. I talked about it constantly. I worked with the providers here. Individuals, families, like people in my groups, like, cool, this health plan's not working for you. Why don't you talk to this provider? They're going to help you save a lot of money. But I did worked a lot with SparkMD. We partnered quite a bit. They would send us some clients. I would send them a bunch of patients.
Nice.
And then I helped launch Nice Healthcare here, which is a virtual and in-person primary care solution using nurse practitioners at a low cost. Right now it's $44 per employee per month, and that covers everyone in the household. And primary care, labs, x-rays, everything. It's awesome. And I was able to launch that here in 21. And now it's like, having that foundation it's just been a natural progression. Like, how else can we help lower these costs and improve people's experience?
So you just talked about a lot in my mind. I certainly heard everything about benefits and insurance there, but what I really heard was collaboration. I heard partnering, I heard sharing, and and really digging in and building something that is sustainable to help not only you as a for-profit business person, you have a family to feed. Everybody respects that, but you can also do right by your employer groups and their employees, right? The true consumer of healthcare is the employee, the end user. So talk to me about if or how meaningful collaboration would be or is in your modern career right now, let alone what it has been over the years.
I think, I mean, obviously everybody knows where I started, like this giant gap from this voice of scarcity that I think, I don't know, is prevalent in our industry for whatever reason. There's every single person in this country is affected by our healthcare system and the lack thereof of accessibility and cost, a bit affordability, I guess I should say. So for me, it's, over time, it was what's available, trying to find somebody that's going to share that because they're so afraid that you're going to steal their secret sauce. Even though I'm like, what is it? 3 billion people need help. Like, I think, and what is there? Like 1,000 of us? Like, there's enough.
Sure.
But now, as you move into more unbundling, or I have moved into more unbundling, more opportunities, and like the marketplace, instead of being so local, is now global. And that is also in benefits. Like if you go to Benefits Pro and you go into the expo of all the vendors,
the solution pavilion, all the solution providers, vendors, whoever.
Walking through, like, oh, you have this solution, oh, we can do what, we're doing this. There's no way anybody can know everything. But also there's a lot of solutions out there, and sometimes they don't work quite as efficiently as we'd hoped. So it's critical to have a group of people, like, have you tested this, or what's working for you with these TPAs? So, maybe people aren't making the same mistakes. I think knowing those personal experiences, especially if we are intent on, building a more equitable healthcare system right now for our communities. Like, nobody can do this on their own. I cannot do this like Lindsay's in this bedroom in her house, like doing quotes for small group. It's not what it was in 2007. It is like technology tools. How do we communicate? How do we get engagement? How many people, what's the job description? Are you hiring? How do you hire? What's your team look like, especially for independents? There are a lot of challenges there. So for me, to the collaboration, I will talk to anybody. I am not afraid to call any other agent, but I have a very specific group of people that I work with Q4 Intelligence, that we're in contact weekly at minimum. I'm utilizing that whole network constantly, and it's the only thing. Otherwise, Eric, I can't keep up. I can't know everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I love that you're a part of Kevin and Wendy's group at Q4. They're the best. Known them for years. They've been on the show, or actually Kevin's been on the show. They're both going to come back on the show soon. So by the time anybody's listening to this, they're probably recorded and soon to be released. Or if you're listening years from now, they're already released. But no, I love those guys, and collaboration is key. And it's interesting because you talked about scarcity. I'll be the first to admit, when I started in the business, my original mentors, managers, leaders, whatever you want to call them, they were training me and a number of peers to be more scarcity driven and more aggressive, for lack of a better term. And I did it. I didn't know any better. I was young and green in the business. But as I grew up and as I continued, I realized I want to be more abundant than scarcity driven. And you're right. There's so many opportunities out there. We can all win. And we're never going to change anything in the industry for the good if we're all kind of working on our own in various silos, like you said, in your bedroom or in somebody's garage or whatever it might be. You mentioned going into, I really like what you said about going into Benefits Pro, the expo, and you're going to the Solution Pavilion, and you're overwhelmed. There's hundreds of vendors. Let me ask you this. This is something that I know is near and dear to a lot of advisor, broker, consultants, because they struggle with this. How do you personally, Lindsay, vet various solutions that you're introduced to. So you go to the vendor hall, right? You hear 3 different vendors talk about whatever product or service that they can do, and it always sounds amazing. But how do you vet it? How do you vet and evaluate the solutions, the carriers, the products, the TPAs, the technology, whatever it might be? What is your go-to for really figuring out if you should consider it for one of your employer groups?
If anybody has any feedback on how to answer this question, no. How do I vet different vendors aside from asking? Because obviously not all my colleagues have access to every vendor.
Sure.
In my sales approach, I'm very specific. So I understand it is critical to me. I'll use Kevin Trokey's words. He said, Lindsay, there are people who are waiting for you to provide help. They are waiting for you to call them. They need the kind of help you can offer. So that like sits in my heart. Like,
Sounds
okay.
like Kevin.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like, okay, I've hit this space where, as I told him, I was like, I don't need another dollar. I have enough. I don't need things. I live a good life, whatever. Now my business ambition is existential, is how can I help more people?
Sure.
In order to do that, I need to understand what their goals are, and what they see as their threats and their opportunities and their obligations. So I have all of these detailed notes on any of the prospects that I've had the opportunity to meet with. And when I'm out in a solution expo, like at Benefits Pro, for example, which is it is huge. I use all of these things, these problems that they're experiencing to vet any vendor. And then what tools and resources do I already have in-house? How can I make a connection to my current employee navigator, for example, or would it make more sense to use the NISOLVE or certain things for different types of groups?
So do you rely on the partner, or not partners per se, I don't even know what the term is, but the fellow members of Q4 and other groups that you're part of to kind of throw names out there and companies and solutions and say, hey, this sounded amazing. Anybody use them yet? Is it all talk or is it good? Like, is that helpful to you?
1,000%.
Oh, good.
1,000, 100. Like, I have a question out on the forum right now at Q4, and I've asked everyone, it's like, does anybody know of a really good care navigation service that can serve 30 plus life groups? Because I'm bundling in 30 plus.
A lot of them you have to be a lot larger, so you know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And not just like, Fresh Beneath has a really, like, sorry, Reed, I shouldn't be plugging so many people.
You're doing great. Everybody you've talked about has been on my show. They're all great friends. So if you want to hear episodes of Kevin and Wendy and Reed, and just check the comments, you're going to see all the different episodes. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm like, I'm not trying to plug everybody. There's so many great options out there, but like they have the navigation for if you have a bill that you can access. But it is trying to find the right solution that's affordable for each group, to find the provider that's going to help drive the best outcomes, et cetera. Some of those are challenging for me, and I'm looking for some. So anybody's welcome to reach out and tell me about it.
There
Please
you go.
don't spam me. But
no, look, I really love what you said about asking peers that you respect and that you trust, that are part of your peer group and so forth, collaboration wise. And I do the same, by the way. And I think a lot of the folks listening do the same. But here's the problem, and we know this. There are a lot of folks that are listening that are learning about your story, and they don't have that. They have yet to take the time and financial commitment to invest in a Q4 Health Rosetta, Next Gen Mastermind, True Network, Band. I got to name them all because I'm not trying to be loyal to just one. But there's a lot of these groups out there, and everybody does rely on that. That camaraderie, that ability to talk. And, I think you're probably like me and most, where we're going to go and we love Benefits Pro, love you, Paul Wilson, but we're going to go to this conference, and oftentimes the best stuff we learn is at the break, and not at the breakouts, not at the main event, but moreover, in the hallways, in passing, grabbing coffee, having dinner, having a cocktail, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is the live version, but the not live, the virtual version is sending a message to the group and saying, hey, I'm thinking about this, or I have this problem. Can you help? So I love it. And what you said earlier about helping people, it totally reminded me of my favorite quote ever, Zig Ziglar. You can have everything in life you want if you're willing to just help enough people get what they want. And I think that's the mark of abundance. Let me dig a little bit deeper. You said something earlier that I wanted to touch on. When it comes to putting in direct contracting or DPC, direct primary care, or it comes to care navigating or anything, there's so many different things you could be doing, right? When it comes to this stuff, oftentimes I find that it may take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings with arguably the most intelligent people at any company USA, the CEO, the CFO, the head of HR, the CHRO, their management team. And you have all these meetings to try to explain and convince them why what you're preaching is so powerful and important and it's going to work. And it takes all that time, hours and hours and hours of time over months and months and months and months before the light bulbs flash and they say, I got it. But here's the problem. Then oftentimes, as you know, they want to say, all right, well, let's just have a big meeting with 500 people and, we'll roll it out. And that's not, and I say it, right? It took 6 months to get you as the most educated people at the company to understand what we're trying to do. And you want us to just send an email and have a quick little meeting that hopefully people will come to. So I guess the question is, how do we get the communication down to the end user, that consumer of healthcare, the employee, and then how do we keep them engaged throughout the year? Because that is going to be the marquee of whether the program works and lasts or whether they revolt back to a status quo Blue Cross type plan.
That's the $1 million question, right? I think
not to put you on the spot or anything.
And guys, I have all of the solutions. You should just do what I do. No, just kidding. I don't. I am learning just like everyone else. I want to answer this question, but then I also want to get back to the first thing that you said about the new brokers that may not have the resources to do Q4. So don't, sure. I want to get back to that. That's important Absolutely. To me too. For this one, that is critical to the overall success. Sure. If for Nice Healthcare, if the employer cannot push forth like more engagement, more incentives or whatever, I've noticed that like we lose them as an opportunity. Like Nice goes away, it's costing, but we only have 9% engagement, and is anybody seeing any results? And I think it's threefold, right? You have to have employers that are willing to, or employer teams that are willing to communicate throughout the year. As consultants, we have to educate them to do that. This is new for everyone. Like you've got multiple meetings to come up with new concepts. Multiple meetings now about how do you roll this out in a meaningful way so you're not going back to what you used to have because this way's too hard.
Sure.
And then having the employees just really adopt it. And I honestly goes back to, I think, overall culture. And as a consultant, you're not going to be able to change that. Mm-hmm. But when you're assessing, I think first and foremost, when you're assessing who you're going to make this type of offer to, you have to assess how they manage their culture and who they are. And you have to define as a salesperson, you have to define what that client looks like and kind of have a checklist of like, okay, yes, they do these things, so that that when you say, all right, let's unbundle, let's get down and dirty with your employees. And now they're going to go see these direct providers. And this is what it means if they go to any other provider that's not in the direct contracts, or, this is what it means with your prescription drugs. And let's come up with a drip campaign. And they have to be already able to take on that type of education, because it's something that they already do somewhere within their format. Sure. And then there's other tools that you can use. I know Chelsea uses TrueHue. I've used TrueHue, which is a text tool that gets people where they're at. It's super important. because not everybody is using email,
Mhm.
especially if you're under 30. I think honestly, as an industry, we probably need to be reaching out on how to use these plans through TikTok and Instagram, honestly, making videos like, oh, I have a direct provider plan, just like making it simple. So we're meeting people where they are and where they're downloading content regularly to make it normal. And then also to have employees like, hey, did you know, going to their employers, did you know these types of plans exist? Did I answer that?
You did, and I love how you threw in. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I think it's a mission critical. I love how you threw in basically modern day social media, and I mentioned that to a group. I remember literally back in 2018, 2019, as a 4,000 man account that we still have to this day through an advisor partner, and I had mentioned let's use their active social media page, because chances are all your employees already like and subscribe, for lack of a better term, to your Facebook, et cetera. Chances are their family members, their immediate family members, husband, wife, whoever does as well. So when we're communicating throughout the year, let's brag on social media about how great your benefits are and how passionate you are about helping the employee population and their family. And I remember the biggest objection we heard, and we do it a lot now, but back then, I mean, it was still different. We heard employers say, well, but that's a public facing account. Customers and clients can see that Facebook account. And I said, yeah, but you should be excited and brag about your benefits and care on your employees and love on your employees. And from a recruiting perspective, wouldn't that help you, right? If you're looking for employees and they're more apt to work at a company that loves their employees so much, you should brag about it. So sure, if you're a plumbing company, you can still promote that you have a plumbing deal going on this week. It's a special, buy one, whatever, but sprinkle in some love about your employees. And I truly believe you're going to have an easier time recruiting and retaining more people. So I love how you threw in the TikToks and so forth. I think that's going to be bigger and bigger each and every year. What about, you said you wanted to talk about, I don't want us to forget, from the collaboration group. So somebody's listening today, right? We talked about it. They don't have a peer group. They haven't invested the time and money to join anything like we have. What would you advise them to do? Would you tell them to consider doing that? Is there another resource they could try?
You know, when the budget, it's not super affordable to do one-on-one coaching. It didn't matter if it was if the coach service down the street of your home or any of the professional organizations you've listed off. That's a pretty penny. There are tools, like you can do some virtual stuff, but genuinely, Eric, and maybe it's just because I'm Gen X, I think you get more from person to person. Like, for example, let's pause. You were talking and I thought, oh, you were talking like what I was thinking, like I got this idea. It's a great idea. Start, like, if an employer doesn't already have a communication program, and maybe they're already a client of yours, and you might have a tool that you could use, or you can make an introduction for a tool like a text tool, saying, okay, we're talking about this, we're getting momentum. Why don't we start surveying your employees using this tool that you would integrate into whatever platform you're doing, with like you're making in your offer. So it already creates recognition for the employees. So you inhibit like oh, I didn't know that wasn't spam breakdowns.
Right.
So that came to me. If any, steal it, guys, communicate. But for the other guys, look, there are lots of us out there, I think now more than ever, that have a big heart for making significant changes in our communities that creates access to healthcare, affordability. We want you to know what's available and how to execute these, because we need it to be successful if we're going to make any meaningful change in this country. And I mean, honestly, I'm as passionate about this as I would be for any other cancer cause or anything. In fact, even more so, because I like last month, I think I cried 4 different times with 4 different clients about how they didn't know how to navigate. The doctors, couldn't treat them, and then insurance wasn't going to cover something, or they couldn't get a prescription that they needed. And how do people actually do this?
Sure.
So we need all the help we can get. And any of us that have been here and are seasoned, we do not have the luxury of holding all that knowledge for ourselves. And so if you're new and you are actually listening to this, you can email me. I sincerely mean it. I will share whatever I can. I will tell you how I prospect, because it's, it's not a secret. And if you need help with anything, I'm here. If you need an ear to listen, and now I'm going to get bombarded, hopefully not, but but even so, I know other people that could possibly help you. I think our business can be incredibly isolating, and I was really affected by that for a lot of years. And I got
the pandemic
really,
probably didn't help.
the pandemic did not help. And so all the way up to there, I felt really alone. There was not a lot of people who wanted to help. And it can affect your mental health.
Sure.
And your confidence, your ability to feel that you are actually solving problems. It can affect a lot, and affect your family relationships as well.
Mhm.
So I couldn't stress this enough, how important it is, even if it is that you go to your local NABIP chapter and try to find somebody that you vibe with, and say, I really like what I've noticed on LinkedIn that you're doing, or whatever, or how do you solve this problem, and see who's open to helping you.
Mhm.
But I feel like I'm making a PSA, so I'm done talking.
No, it's fantastic. And, it's interesting because, and I totally respect that you said, and you shared that, last month you cried 4 times with customers and clients, and, because they're struggling with navigating the healthcare system. And, it's interesting because I've seen recently meeting in the last many years, a lot of advisors that I know, I'm friends with, that I respect, that they personally have, and they're in the industry, they advocate and preach every
Mhm.
day, and
Mhm.
they personally have struggled. They personally have themselves and their family members who have had challenges with the healthcare system, and they too are getting bombarded with, what do I do? Even though they're literally the so-called experts. And I'm not naming names; it's a good thing.
Mhm.
But we're all only human, and the problem that we all know is that even in the industry, when we're at a hospital or doctor and they're saying, "Here's what you have to sign in order for us to do what you need," what do you do? How do you not handle it right then in a specific situation? And if we're struggling, you and I and other colleagues, just imagine what no offense to anybody, but the minimum wage hourly worker, the line worker, is going to go through when they literally don't have a clue about anything that we're doing. So
And these are the people that make our world go round.
that's right. That's the
This
point.
is
Absolutely.
the person that drove you to the airport in the Uber. This
Right.
is the person that's checking you out at the market. That, these people matter so
Yep.
much. And I think that drives me from that story about the $40. Like, I'm never that far away from the way that felt.
Mhm.
And I put myself in that position all of the time. What does it mean if I had there's like a metallic plan in small group right now? It's $9,450 maximum out of pocket. Think about that as $19,000. If I'm a husband, wife, and let's say we're making a good living, $60,000 a year each, that's $120,000 a year, right? As a family, we're not going to qualify for Medicaid. If we're younger, probably wouldn't qualify for tax credits. We're on our employer plan. We're doing the right thing as a family. And I'm pregnant. My baby goes into the NICU. It's $9,450 for me, $9,450 for baby.
Right.
Just if I'm a younger couple and I have student loan debt, just so to put it in a context people can understand, the minimum income in Boise right now to buy a house is $140,000 a year. So rent is already really high. Cost of groceries is high. So $120,000 is just not what it used to be.
Sure.
I could go into debt.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, I could file bankruptcy. And I had insurance. Like, my son, another turning point for me was in 2020, and my son wanted to do this job, and I'm sure I have like a lot to say. And he started to learn about it, and he said, "Mom, I can't do this. I can't use fear to manipulate people and have them buy things that aren't going to help them." And he's 22 now.
Powerful.
And I thought, oh, well, if we're going to get younger generations in this business, we're going to have to fix this.
Right.
And it is really powerful. And it's really was watershed moment for me. Like, what am I doing? Am I really serving my community in a meaningful way? If somebody were to call me and they had $20,000 of debt in a financial product that we're selling, Eric, it's a financial product that is supposed to save you from debt that costs so much to engage in the first place. I mean, I got to look at myself in the mirror. I got to sleep at night. Like,
I mean, it's astonishing. I've been preaching about, and I know you have too, I've been talking about and preaching about for more than a decade now, probably 15 years, the Harvard University medical bankruptcy study that was so prevalent, that's still a thing. Here we are 15 years later or more, roughly, and it's still a thing. We're talking about educated Americans, college educated, white picket fence. They own a house. They're making a combined 150 grand a year. They have a couple cars in the driveway. They're doing the right thing. They're saving. They might have life insurance. They have health insurance, and yet they're only one medical instance away from calamity, from losing everything under the sun they've ever worked for in their entire life is going to put them in bankruptcy, according to that study. And they had health insurance. And again, I can't stress enough, people listening, I know you know this, they were doing everything that stereotypically society says you're supposed to do, and they still fell victim to medical bankruptcy. And the astonishing part to me back then and still to this day is the average person. If you were to survey a non-insurance person, a non-benefits person, and say, what do you think is the leading cause of bankruptcy? Most people are not going to say medical. They're going to say credit card debt, buying things you can't afford, buying a Lexus when you should be buying a pre-owned Chevy, right? And that's actually not what it is. So I just, it is tragic to hear. And I really hate passionately that 15 years later, it's still a thing, and it really hasn't. I mean, we're chipping away, but it really hasn't, in my opinion, globally gotten any better. As we start to wrap up, I know, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody listening. Let me end with a couple quick questions. Number one, okay. Everything that we do as advisors, not everything, but a lot of the things from an innovative perspective, can be viewed as noisy, right? And you put it in, and it is noisy, and there are going to be complaints, and there's going to be some chaos, right? How do you encourage an employer to look past that and work through it, right? Push through the fear, push through the pain, because that's what it is. How do you get them to understand that we can't make that change without embracing the noise and embracing what's going to happen, and assuring them that you as their advisor are going to be there to help them filter out that noise?
That real quickly is, for me, recentering them on our original conversation. Their goals for their company, where they want to grow, what they see as their personal threats, what they see as opportunities, and how they feel obligated to their employees. I continually recenter them to, this is what we are trying to achieve. In our first meeting, you said you are so tired of hearing your employees say, I don't even know why I have insurance. It doesn't pay for anything.
Right.
This is the problem we are trying to solve. It's a newer concept. It's not new. It's new to you,
Sure.
But it is like a new idea for everybody. Let's keep engaging. Let's do another meeting. Let's talk about how we can communicate to these people out in the fields or wherever they're working. Because I've done ag groups, and, you've got people, and then also meeting them where they are with their language. There are a lot of my clients have employees that their Spanish is their primary language, making sure the materials are accurately and effectively translated so that they understand it. But then I hire translators that can explain that this is a gift so that they engage and they understand what they're getting. I had another thought about a question you had about vendors. Sorry. Another way I vet vendors is I tell them where I'm at. Like, I'm growing, I'm moving in this market. I haven't had, like, let's say I haven't had a whole bunch of at-bats and self-funding. That's just truth.
I like that baseball analogy.
Yeah, I'm a Rangers fan. I noticed a Cardinals hat. We'll talk about it later. Anyway.
No. I have to pause. That's the Orioles. This is orange. That's
Orioles. Oh my gosh, I just messed that up. What is the Orioles?
It's okay.
It's the Cardinals. Okay.
And you're a Rangers fan.
Oh my God.
We'll talk offline about that one. I
just messed up, and it's out there.
Orioles, but
Rangers fans, don't shoot me, or Cardinals. Okay. Funny. Or Orioles for that matter. Anyway, but
Do you
when
get
I
the
talk to,
at-bats? Yep.
yeah, I haven't had that many at-bats. If I can recover any at-bats. So I typically say that I'll say, I haven't had that many at-bats. I need help educating myself and my clients. What can you do? You will be surprised how many will say, let's come up with a training plan. Let's do this. And if they're willing to help you, then they're really bought into what they're trying to accomplish too. And they do really want to engage. So that's another way to vet.
I like it. I like it. Well, look, I mean, you've said it all. I would love to end with two fun things. One, for those that are listening, you can't see Lindsay. She's got these incredibly funky, cool glasses. When I first brought her on the show before we hit record, she was saying that's kind of become her signature trait for what it's worth, and I love it. So keep it up. So if you haven't already checked out our YouTube page, while you're there, subscribe. But check out these amazing glasses. But you're passionate about Idaho. I've never been to Idaho. All I know about Idaho is potatoes, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And my son has a ranking list of his top 10 French fries, so he's a big fan of potato as well. But tell us something other than potato that folks should know about Idaho and why you love Idaho so much as we wrap up.
Okay, well, this is what I love about Idaho. Their core values here. We are nice for no reason.
Nice for no reason. I love that.
Nice for no reason. There is like your car breaks down on the highway. Doesn't matter where you're from. Somebody's going to pull over and help you fix your tire or whatever. I mean, to this day, we are trying not to come around thinking everybody is a serial killer or out to get us. So we are really like, that's how we are. We love our wild places. We are an outdoorsy bunch of people. We have more protected. We have the largest protected wilderness area in the lower 48, and we're second only to Alaska, like the largest like square footage. It was a senator from Idaho that made that a possibility across our country, Frank Church. But and then Sacagawea is from here. And she saved Lewis and Clarke and her tribe, saved them from total devastation. But I mean, there's all kinds of really cool history here in the Gem State. But I will say the best thing about Idaho is you are going to find a lot of local color, a lot of investment in everything that's Idaho. We are all about each other. Idaho buys Idaho. We are very, very committed to that. But you're always welcome. And if you love to be outside, if that's dirt biking, mountain biking, hiking, airplane flying, you name it, it's here. And you can get away from somebody in about an hour. You can be away from civilization with no cell service. And that right there is heaven. Before we wrap up, I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
I would love some feedback of how you think I could be better in my business.
That's one.
Well, think about it. You can email me too later, and you can add notes in the show notes. And the second thing I want to know about you is, what did you learn from the greatest or the biggest failure in your life? What was the gift?
Well, I like the first one with respect to how can you be better? Because that's something that we all need to be asking ourselves all the time. And I love constructive criticism and feedback. So I will leave it to the audience on that one. So please put in the show notes, or excuse me, in the comment section and so forth. Reach out to me, reach out to Lindsay. She's craving the feedback, and please let her know. But as far as the second question, I'll fall on my own sword. I mean, with respect to failure, my biggest failure, and I'm sure everybody has their own example. In fact, perfect segue. You did not set it up this way on purpose. I did not know you were going to say it, but I'm actually speaking with you. I know you're speaking at Benefits Pro, and this will be released before the expo. So if you're not already going to the expo, please get yourself a ticket and go meet me, meet Lindsay, and hear some great stuff. And again, these sidebar conversations are the best part anyway. But I'm actually speaking on the last day at the Benefits Pro Ben Talks, the TED Talk type things. Paul was actually kind enough to ask me to join the stage with some ridiculous rock stars friends of mine, Marlon and Jessica, and Lisa, and so many others. And the topic is leadership and really how to be a better leader. My entire talk, so I don't want to steal my own thunder, is about how I was not a very good leader. In fact, I created a lot of enemies when I was a brand new young green leader. And I don't want to make blames here, but I said earlier on the show that I was mentored and trained under more of a scarcity mindset. So I didn't know any better. And as I reflect now, almost 25 years in the business, I have many years ago realized the error in my ways, and that's what I'm going to be talking about at the Benefits Pro TED Talk, but they call it the Ben Talk. So hopefully you can join and listen, and hopefully everybody listening would consider getting a ticket and meeting us at Benefits Pro. So great questions. I love that. Look, you said it all. We are about out of time. I just show up, like I've told you before, on email. I just ask some fun questions, have a conversation, and enjoy the show. But I don't really do anything after that. So for everybody behind the scenes at the Rockstars Rocking podcast, I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all of our listeners. And I am Eric Silverman. That is, was, and always will be the one, the only Lindsay Clarke Youngwerth, the top 5 Benefit Pro Advisor of the Year finalists for 2024. And congrats again, and good luck. By the time this airs, we will all be waiting and very close to learning who that top person is. But either way, you're a winner for being in the top 5 out of the tens of thousands of people in our industry. So thanks again, everybody listening. And like I always say, don't just have a great week, make it a great week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, Rockstars, keep rocking.